Hello again. How are all of you? Rufus and I are here. I'm actually going to show you guys Rufus today because he sits at my feet pretty much the whole time that I do these videos. Say hello to all the yogis, Rufus. He helps a lot. So delving back into the yamas today, we're on the third of the yamas, which is, and I'm going to slaughter the way I say this. My Sanskrit's not great by any stretch of the imagination. So if someone speaks better Sanskrit than me and can teach me how to say this word correctly, please help me out here. Brahmacharya. And the translation that best fits into English is chastity. And when we talk about chastity, we automatically think like the physical restraint of non-sexual practice, of chastity sense of Western culture sense of chastity. And while, yes, that is a portion of this concept, it's not the whole of it. And this is where I often think that we sometimes as yogis maybe get a little confused about what this one particularly means. Because when we speak of chastity, we are actually thinking about the senses as a whole. So if you think about, if you have a tendency to overeat, if you, anything that you indulge too heavily in, it's that sense of, being mindful of how much. Are you pushing yourself really far into certain things and obsessing over them? Or are you balanced? I always think of this as more of a, how am I balancing the things in my life? Am I, whereas, we can push into the concepts of addiction. So if you think of Brahmacharya, I have to look at it to say Brahmacharya. Brahmacharya. See, I told you. Chastity. Let's just go with the English translation, shall we? Chastity. As a concept that is beyond just the idea of sexual chastity and into the sense of impulse control in a way. So when we look at it more as a sense of impulse control, and so looking at habits that you may have where, maybe you're an overeater, maybe you have an addiction to nicotine or alcohol or drugs or any of those things, that's where this yama really comes into play in our day-to-day lives. And that sense of maybe not complete and total avoidance, but balancing of. So how can you allow yourself some sensual pleasure, some form of, whatever it is that gives that chemical response in your brain that, without pushing into an addiction complex of it. The same goes for, people who have actual sexual addiction. This is definitely something where they are so physically in their body and so in their sacral chakra and so heavily in tune to that it pulls everything else out of balance. So if you can think of this yama as that point of balance, that how am I satiating my needs? How am I getting what I need, what I love, what I desire without pushing into excess? So with that in mind, and a squeak of a squeaky toy, let's settle in here and take a few moments to meditate on this philosophy, on this yama. So find a nice, comfortable seat. Roll your shoulders back and down. And allow yourself to settle in here. Finding this pause in your day. Allowing yourself this time to simply be. Check in with your physical body. Notice what you're carrying there. Check in with your thoughts. Where are they today? What are you pulled by? Check in with your emotions. How are you mentally feeling right now? We're currently in a situation where a lot of us are pushing into some of those excessive behaviors because of what's happening externally. They become comforts for us. If you're excessively eating foods that you find to be comforting and overeating, if you're, gambling more heavily, if you're smoking more, if you're drinking more because of that outside influence of what's happening in our world currently, then you're pressing yourself in to your excess, to whatever it is that you find to be that comfort. And I hate that we say the word comfort in English because it's really not comfort. It's really us pushing ourselves into a state of discomfort and dis-ease because we're overdoing in one aspect versus coming into balance and being like, okay, I can step this back. I can control this. I can have some chastity, some sense of personal control and balance in this practice that I've fallen into. Because all of our habits are practices. So notice right now, how are you feeling? What are you pushing into? What excess are you allowing yourself to settle into? Is it an excess of your mind racing? Is it one of those other, the other practices that I've mentioned that are things that we tend to push into as comforting, as habits, those habitual things that we do in our lives? What are you noticing? What are you pushing into right now? And maybe this is a long path that you've been on. Maybe this is a habit, a behavior that you've exhibited time and time and time again. Or maybe you're noticing something new that's coming up right now. Something that you've suddenly started to get into a habitual practice of. That's maybe not healthy. That's maybe pushing you out of alignment, pushing you out of balance. What are you noticing? What are you doing? What are you allowing into your life? What practice are you allowing yourself to become continual and circular in right now? Notice. Just notice. Not shaming. Just noticing what it is. Becoming familiar with it. And curious about the why behind it. Why is this a practice that you've settled into? Why is this something you've circularly brought into your life? Why is this something that you're doing habitually, constantly? It's that sense of, overdoing. What are you doing in that practice? How can you steady yourself? When you notice yourself reaching for whatever that is, when you notice yourself stepping into that practice, can you find a way within you to check in, to take a pause, to step back, to question why? Why am I doing this? Why am I allowing this? Why am I settling into this? Can you allow yourself the ability, the strength, the stamina within, the balance to be able to ground in that moment, to take a deep breath and not push into excess, to stay centered and aligned, to find that sense of chastity Brahmacharya. And bring that in, breathe that in. Maybe it's an excessive behavior of how you're reacting. Maybe it's, you're reacting harshly to everyone around you right now. What is that behavior for you? We all have one, like it or not. We all have something, and maybe it's something you've struggled with time and time again. Or maybe it's something new that's coming up with this new world that we're in right now. But how can you steady yourself? How can you bring yourself into alignment, into balance, and allow whatever that excessive behavior is to settle? And maybe it's just incrementally. Maybe this is a practice that you bring in day to day, hour to hour, minute to minute. Right now is the perfect time. The majority of us are at home. Right now is the perfect time to come into this practice of noticing where you're out of alignment, noticing where you're pushing to excess, and then bringing yourself back in. Checking back in, balancing back. I'd love to hear from you on this, either in private message or in the comments of this video. We are a community and we have to continue to check in with one another. So please, please check in. Let me know how you are. Let me know how you're feeling, how life is going for you right now. With great love. 3 deep breaths here together in community. Thumbs to your forehead center. The divine light within me recognizes and deeply reflects the divine light within you all. Namaste. Love you all. Miss you all dearly. Absolutely cannot wait for the day that I can hug and embrace every single one of you. Mwah. Much love.